here. So he has all 21 drops, very aggressive. Alongside 4 Imposing Sovereigns, 4 Daring Skyjack, 4 Azorius Arrestor, and 2 Keating Apparition. He's also cut Precinct Captain, which was another conclusion that Ben and I had drawn that is just not very good right now.
Yeah, it's not.
This is, setting aside the fact that John doesn't have access to red for something like Boros Charm, this is very close to a list that Ben and I were theory crafting in the office this week. So this is very cool to see.
We have a Temple of Manon on turn number 2 here from Martin. He started off with an Elvish Mystic. He'll just pass the turn back. Looks like he's ready to block Boros Elite if able, but now he'll just take the 1. So just leaving back the Mystic with the intentions of ramping with it, as here is Bagley with a Plains, and this is a Loyal Pegasus along with another copy of Loyal Pegasus. Okay then.
Yeah, you got to block that Boros Elite now because you don't get another shot at it.
See, Martin is drawing a card for the turn. He does have a Xenagos at the ready. He also has a Domri in his hand as well, but neither of those cards are all that impressive right now.
And John Monsters is a little soft in the air. So flyers are pretty good. Loyal Pegasus is a very efficient creature. Now, of course, you can break it up with the removal spells, but John's playing so many 1-drops that's very challenging to do. John is playing 4 copies of Godless Shrine. The only black card in the deck is Prophet Loss, which he can, of course, cast profitably, even if he only has white mana.
Yeah. In with the Mystic we go. And Bagley going to go down to 19, so it's an even game for now.
You want to race?
I think John Bagley's interested in that.
All right, you want to race?
This a little Dom reaction. It is. Maybe a fight, or are we going to go up? We are going to go up. So let's take a look at the top card. It is a miss. And now the big question here is, will Bagley actually try to kill Domri, or will he just say, hey, how about 7 to the face?
It's a tough decision. It definitely just depends on what the rest of his hand looks like. I think in general you want to get Domri off the table as the fight power is relevant.
And that's what he's going to do. So the Pegasus are going to go over there. You see Boros Elite with Battalion is going to go upstairs, going to knock Martin down to 16. This is a Daring Skyjack with the ability to represent Brave the Elements right now, so that's not so bad, as Martin's going to draw a card. It's a copy of Blood Crypt.
And John definitely capitalizing on a lot of decks being soft in the air. Daring Skyjack plus 2 copies of Loyal Pegasus. That's 7 flying damage.
Martin's going to go down to 14 from the Blood Crypt to deploy it. Let's a Storm Breath Dragon, which is obviously very good against the all-white deck, but he can keep pushing through damage here, so it's not the end of the world. And he's going to start by firing Mutavault, and he says, everybody in the club, let's go.
Look at this band of misfits.
Yeah. You see Daring Sky just going to get blocked. This is for 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Martin's going to go down to 5. I believe he does have a follow-up play here, too. And he's got a Keating Apparition and a Boros Elite. The only thing that he has to be scared of now is like Mizzium Mortars being overloaded. There's only 1 in Russell Martin's stack, and that means he'd have to have that and the red source. We know he has the red source now because he picked up a Blood Crypt.
The other thing here is it's just not getting any better for John. If he leaves the creatures left over in his hand, it's not like that's going to be enough to beat an overloaded Mizzium Mortars in the face of the Storm Breath Dragon. So just cross your fingers here. It's unlikely he has an untapped source of mana that's red and the Mizzium Mortar, so just don't even bother.
You see Martin here knows that he's in a lot of trouble as this heavy 1-drop deck. This is, this is an approach that people have been employing. You with your Sullivan red deck, we've seen, Burn, some other decks just say, hey, I'm just going to try to kill you as fast as I possibly can. And, even though the group of cards I have to use to do this aren't the most impressive, if your deck kind of fumbles and stumbles out of the gate, I can kill you before you actually do anything.
It doesn't look good.
No.
It doesn't look good on paper or in play, but you can get them to 0.
There's nothing pretty about Loyal Pegasus and Boros Elite. I can promise you that.
Well, Loyal Pegasus plus Judge's Familiar is actually, that's my favorite ragtag group of idiots to have attacking. Well, you have your other stuff on the ground.
Here's Storm Breath Dragon. After Martin does go down to 3, he's going to pass the turn back here. Bagley does currently have lethal on the board if he does see it, which is activate Mutavault and attack with everybody. And he is going to activate Mutavault. And as long as he sends everyone sideways, which it looks like he's going to do, this should be a lethal attack, and it is. So John Bagley with White Weenie does not miss the onboard, defeats Russell Martin in game number 1. White Weenie up a game over John Monsters.
This deck is fast.
Yeah, this deck is no playing around at all. Also, Bagley was on the draw that game, so the fact that if he'd been on the play, it would have been even more brutal.
Yes.
But at the same time, this is part of the reason, and this is some of the appeal of these hyper-aggressive strategies right now. We saw Russell Martin have to take 4 damage from his lands in that particular game. And, while the Temples don't deal damage, they just flat come into play tapped. So, I wouldn't be surprised if he's killing people before they actually get the opportunity to cast Jace or Supreme Verdict.
Oh, for sure. And the other thing to keep in mind there is Russell didn't trade his Mana Elf for a Boros lead on the first turn, and that Mana Elf net, it did accelerate him into a Stormbreath Dragon, so it did something, but the turn that he cast Stormbreath Dragon, he also had Xenagos in hand that he could have deployed and made a blocker and so forth. So that decision might have ended up costing Russell a lot of damage because the Boros lead hit for 3 in subsequent turns, and that Elvish Mystic was never able to trade with anything for the remainder of the game.
Sideboard time. I've got Russell Martins in front of me, and since he's on the play and I'm familiar with Jund Monsters, I'll start here with the Garrett Caller of Beast, the Chandra Pyromaster, Mizium Mortars, 2 Ultimate Price, 2 Golgari Charm, 2 Skylasher, along with 3 Mistcutter Hydras, a Sire of Insanity, and 2 copies of Thoughtseize. Give me as much removal as you do have, please and thank you. Mizium Mortars, Ultimate Price times 2, Golgari Charm times 2, and then the Chandra Pyromaster. That's an easy 6, and even though Skylasher isn't sexy, it does block flyers, so give me that too.
Yeah. Just eats a Judge's Familiar.
Yeah, that's all I can really ask for. You know, obviously eats Loyal Pegasus as well. You know, it's going to trade with those cards, but hey, that's fine with me. I just want to make sure that I don't die quickly, because if the game goes long, Stormbreath Dragon can get the job done.
Yeah, just anything that's a little bit on the slow and cumbersome side you want to get rid of. The problem is that he has Stormbreath Dragon and Palachronos, which are on the slower side, but do have a ton of upside.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if he's going to want to get away from those cards altogether, but maybe the things like Xenagos, God of Revels, maybe his Gore Clan Rampagers, there are some cards to cut.
The Sire of Insanity can definitely
The
go.
Sire of Insanity, this is not the right party.
Yes.
This is not the right thing.
John Bagley side, what you got?
3 Glare of Heresy, 3 Last Breath, 3 Fiendslayer Paladin, 2 Renounce the Guilds, 2 Keening Apparitions, and 2 copies of Pithing Needle. I think that I like bringing in nothing, or perhaps the 2 copies of Pithing Needle. There are a couple troublesome cards in Russell's deck, potentially for John, that he can answer with his copy of Pithing Needle. The Planeswalkers, especially Dawnbreeze Fight Power, that's relevant, and Palachronos is meaningful as well.
Yeah, Needle's kind of obscure because the idea here is just to attack as much as you possibly can. You don't want to dilute your deck very much. I suppose because Profit Loss isn't at its best in this matchup, you can maybe board one of those out for 1 or 2 for both copies of Needles if you deem that necessary.
Profit Loss is potentially very good against a Palachronos activation.
Sure.
Because if Russell's not playing around it, he's going to go 1-1 to 2 different guys, let's say, and then Profit Loss can be very good there. I'm not saying it's at its best, certainly, but there are situations where it'll be good there, too.
Yeah. We'll see. I don't expect a lot of sideboarding from Bagley just because he doesn't have a lot of options in this matchup, but at the same time, he might feel very comfortable in this matchup because that first game was very one-sided.
Russell's draw was fine, too.
Yes. It was functional. You could argue that Stormbreath Dragon is the best card in this matchup for him, and he drew a couple copies of that. He just wasn't able to get them down in time, but that's Bagley's game plan, is you don't get to do what you want to do in an appropriate amount of time, because if you do, you probably win, and the goal is to make sure that you don't.
Yeah.
So we're underway here is Stomping Ground to start here for Martin. Unsurprisingly, a 1-drop there for Bagley. It's going to be a copy of Soldier of the Pantheon. We'll see if Martin has a Sylvan Caryatid or any ramping here. It looks like he may just be playing a land to play tap, and it is with a Blood Crypt. So Bagley's going to be able to get in here for 2 points of damage to start things off.
Now we'll see if John has the dreaded 2 additional 1-drop start.
This looks like it may be a Goblet Shrine, but it looks like he may not want to play that.
Now,
still deciding.
The construction of John's deck is very vulnerable to certain things.
Yeah.
Golgari Charm is a disaster for him. Drown in Sorrow is really bad, but those are cards where people have, maybe 0 copies in their 75, maybe 1.
See a copy of Golgari Charm over there in Martin's hand right now, and he does have another land, so he'll have to play that Blood Crypt untapped to be able to cast Golgari Charm to force things through, especially through that Judge's Familiar.
I mean, there isn't even Spear of Heliod in John's list. There's no concession to sweepers.
Yeah, he is just straight up hyper aggro as best he can be. Not really even trying to play around anything because that anything is probably too good to beat him anyway.
Exactly.
Drown in Sorrow, Anger of the Gods, stuff like that. He's just kind of taking a, well, if you have it, you have it approach, and if you don't, you're dead.
And that's the same strategy that I employ with the white list that I'm playing online right now because most people don't have it. They have 2 Golgari Charms in their sideboard. They have 1 Drown in Sorrow.
Yep.
It's not worth trying to play around these cards because, as you said, the cards you can play to try to beat them don't even work all the time.
See Martin really taking his time here. Considering, does he want to play a Blood Crypt untapped? Do I want to play Domri this turn? I think if I'm in his seat, I just play Blood Crypt untapped, and I'm casting Golgari Charm right now on my turn.
Yeah. Don't allow something weird to happen.
Yeah, -1/-1 everything right now, because now he can open himself up to a card like Profit Loss, as you did mention, and the +1/+1 ability of that. And I'm not saying that Bagley has it in his hand, but there's the potential for him to have it.
It's a huge risk.
And it would be a blowout because it's very clear to me that Russell Martin's not playing around that card, as here he comes. You see Battalion trigger on the stack. Here's this. I do not think there's a split card over there, and Brave the Elements will not save him from this. Yep, he did remember the trigger.
Nice.
Yeah. So he gets to gain a little bit of life.
It's not all bad. It's really bad.
It's a 3 for 1. It's pretty bad. He's going to sacrifice Judge's Familiar to make him pay 1 more. And now those creatures will go to the graveyard. So Golgari Charm does some really, really nice work there. And now the follow-up play here looks like a Dried Militant plus an Imposing Sovereign. So reassemble here the forces.
But this is exactly the type of game that Russell wants to play here. Now he can start just deploying his larger threats and outclassing John. John doesn't have a lot in the way of reach. You're basically just looking at Brave the Elements and Profit Loss. So once the board gets mucked down, it's a struggle for him to get through. No Boros Charms.
Martin's goal here is just, he's already done a pretty nice job of stabilizing. He just needs to keep continuing to do that. I think it's all about deploying creatures right now instead of a card like Domri. Domri's fine in this situation. It's not exciting. It can't play the role of Fog, I suppose. It looks like he's just going to deploy Scavenging Ooze. It's going to come into play tap because of Imposing Sovereign. So Bagley's going to get to attack here for 4 points of damage. You see a Plains from Bagley. We'll see if he's got any follow play. You see Brave the Elements and Azorius Arrestor, a card I know Ben Lundquist likes a lot.
Oh, we love the Arrestor over at Stoneblade Entertainment.
Yeah.
You are under arrest.
That's certainly true. Looks like he's going to deploy that right now.
Boom.
Yep. So, Scavenging Ooze, you are, as you said, under arrest.
Stop.
Collaborate and listen.
We see you.
Or just stop. Okay,
yeah, stop.
We're taking the cop approach. I understand. Temple of Abandon going to come into play. I will say this. Even though I'm not much of a blue-white guy, my favorite flavor from Return to Ravnica is easily the Azorius Guild.
Oh yeah, that's
just with
great.
the law and the name of all of their cards, Attention Sphere, Supreme Verdict. Swings of Revelation doesn't really fit in all that much, but I get it because of Isepra. But I was a big fan of their flavor.
No, it's very the flavor of it's definitely well executed.
So Domri's going to come into play and tick on up. Scavenging Ooze ready on defense. Brave the Elements here in Bagley's hand. He does actually have Profit Loss right now.
Profit Loss plus Brave does give him some setup here.
That's 369 damage. It's 9. He can push through. Okay. Yeah, does he want to do the 1-2 punch of just profit, cast Brave, name green, get you for 9, put you to 3, and you can't play a creature on tap? Yes, you can gain a life. You can actually gain some life with those green manas from Scavenging Ooze, so there's that.
The problem with pushing here is just Russell gets to go untap, gain a life with Scavenging Ooze, fight one of your creatures, play something else to block, and it's not clear you get another shot.
He'd probably rather just trade a creature with Scavenging Ooze.
Correct.
Here. Yeah. Yep. Or trade a Brave for the Scavenging Ooze. Because whatever it blocks, you just name green, and then you trade your Brave.
Oh, I think Russell might have said no blocks that turn.
Yeah, he did. Uh-oh.
Some risky business.
He's at 6. Bagley has some nice resources here. I think he's going to start by activating Scavenging Ooze and going up to 7.
Too proud to trade his Scavenging Ooze. We'll see if it comes back. Because remember, Imposing Sovereign's still in play. If he tries to fight to get Imposing Sovereign off the table, then none of the creatures provide any defense for him this turn.
Yeah. That's exactly what he does. He's going to try to fight Imposing Sovereign. It looks like we're going to have a Brave the Elements here. Yeah, we do. It's going to name green. So you don't win that fight. You don't lose it, but you don't win it.
And again, Russell's hand is just another Domri and a bunch of creatures, so unless he's willing to redeploy Domri and try to fight again, the creatures don't provide any defense for him this turn.
Yeah, the Elvish Mystic and the Sylvan Caryatid in his hand will come into play tapped. Not all that exciting, obviously. He's already fought with Domri, so he can't do that. And the problem here is that he can't actually fight with Domri again because if he redeploys other Domri, all the creatures still have protection from green.
Right.
So there is no refight to take place. So it's just simply going to play Sylvan Caryatid and pass the turn back. Bagley's going to take a draw step here. And now it's actually a pretty good spot as here is, okay. This is Godless Shrine going to come on tap to be able to fuse. There's your block. This is Profit, +1/+1. Actually, giving -1/-1 is a huge deal because Ooze is going to go down to a 2/2.
Yeah, it works.
Yeah. It's not lethal. It's close, though.
Given how bad this Golgari Charm was for John, it's incredible the game is this close right now.
Yeah. Yeah, Imposing Sovereign will die. Of course, it's a 2-1. That becomes a 3-2, and Scavenging is just a 2-2.
Yep.
So Russell Martin is at 1. He draws
Uh-oh.
a copy of Chandra. That is worthy of an uh-oh.
Oofa.
If I'm Martin in this spot, I want to play the Elvish Mystic. I want to fight something. I lose my Domri, sure. I also lose my creature. Play the Chandra, dome something.
Take
and
no
then-
risk.
Yeah.
Take no risk right here. Just clear out the board. Again, you have Storm Breath and another Domri in hand. You can afford to be a little inefficient this turn. Just don't let don't let John rather untap with a creature.
Yeah, because if he finds to Brave the Elements to kill you, you're going to be pretty upset. There's Elvish Mystic. It's going to get to go into play untapped because there's no more Imposing Sovereign. And they're going to fight, okay. And now it looks like Chandra as well. Yep, and this is a beautiful turn.
Yep. 1 damage effects are very good against John's deck, that's for sure.
Yeah, Chandra Pyromaster hasn't really made a huge impact on Standard, but it is very good against these type of decks. That is for sure. So it looks like Bagley drew a copy of Imposing Sovereign.
When I was playing various burn strategies before Born of the Gods, every time I played against a white list, I just pumped the fist because I knew Chandra was just going to be game over. Well, not always. If they have Spear of Heliod, your Chandra actually doesn't do anything. So there's this weird play to it.
Yeah, but Spear obviously isn't a card they can have a lot of copies of because it's legendary. So, you might get one outed by the Spear. And if that happens, good beats, right?
Exactly.
Pulacrano's going to come into play here for Martin. Going to take up Chandra a little bit. At some point, when we're calling coverage over, I think, the course of this year, that card is going to have a huge impact.
It already has. I mean, it's been in successful lists. It's very powerful. It shocks me when I see burn lists that play 0 copies in the 75.
Yeah, me too. Here's a shot.
Because in the burn decks, the ultimate is you win the game in both spots.
Well, I hope so. I would hope so.
You have to be losing by a lot for it to not be that, and it's really hard to get to Planeswalker to ultimate if you're losing the game by a lot.
Pulacrano's going to come in for 5 here. Looks like Martin is just going to pass the turn back here with the ability to use Monstrosity. And I think that's not going to happen just yet, as he Blood Crypt is the draw. See if he wants to deploy the Dragon. He's just going to play very, very conservatively here. Going to tick up, deal 1 more. And what he's doing here is just leaving Monstrosity available the entire time. Because he could have played Stormbreath Dragon and gone for the W, but again, he's just playing very, very conservative Magic, and I think I'm okay with that. It looks a little bit weird since we can see both players' hands, but obviously he's a little bit scared of something, and he's probably playing against a deck he's never played against before.
Yeah, that's exactly the type of window where you tap out for something and your opponent goes instant speed creature, untap, kill you somehow, or whatever the case may be.
Yeah, you're like, I don't really know what can happen. I'm a little bit scared. Okay, I'm just going to play hyper conservatively because, again, he has access to Pulacranos activation just in case anything goes wrong, and that's a pretty safe feeling.
Yes.
There in that situation. So Russell Martin going to tie it up here over John Bagley. You see Bagley immediately going through his deck and taking some cards out here, so he's definitely unhappy with something that he put in.
Well, it's possible right now that he's trying to bring in some more 2-toughness creatures because Russell has owned Golgari Charm and Chandra, but he just doesn't have that much to go to. He can bring in things like Kindling Apparition and Fiendslayer Paladin, but those cards are so poor against Russell in a general sense that if I'm in his position, I just say, all right, well, if you draw 1 or 2 copies of your 1 damage effects, I'm in a lot of trouble, but I'm going to put the onus on you to get to them.
If you guys are just joining us, we definitely do appreciate it. Cedric Phillips, Patrick Sullivan, Star City Games Open Series here in Milwaukee. We're in round 5 of 10, where we're watching John Bagley play against Russell Martin. We've got a deck that we've seen before in Jund Monsters, and an archetype we've seen before in White Weenie, but this is a much different take on it as we have a whole slew of 1-drops and nothing too crazy going on as far as spells are concerned.
Yeah, this is, again, something that Ben Lundquist and I have been floating around. This list is even extreme by our standards. We wanted to play Spear of Heliod and Boros Charm and Temple of Triumph and such. This is as low drop explosive as you can get. The unfortunate part of all this is John's deck is essentially a who's who of things that die to Golgari Charm. Plays 30 creatures total, or sorry, 34 creatures total. 30 of them die to a 1 damage effect, or 32 of them rather.
Jeez.
He has 2 Kindling Apparitions that can survive. Everything else dies.
That is the definition of one way.
Yeah.
Let's do this.
Yeah.
Oh, you have Golgari Charm? Fine, you win. That's fine.
Sure. Although he still almost won that game.
Yeah, that's true.
And if he had Profit lost the turn that Golgari Charm got cast, he definitely would have won the game.
That's true too. You have Chandra? All right.
Oh yeah, Chandra's really bad. Visara with haste is really hard to beat
Yeah.
for 4 mana.
Drown in Sorrow, also game winning.
All right, you win. Yeah, it's fine.
And we're underway. There's a Boros Elite. This is a fist pump. If you're Martin, he's already going down to 18. Now it is an Elvish Mystic. That may trade here. We'll see what ends up happening. See Bagley going to draw his card. Got to offer it up though. See a couple copies of Daring Skyjack over there. Azorius Arrestor as well. Step 1 is to attack. Martin's going to take the 1. He's going to go down to 17. We'll see what Bagley's second turn is going to be. It's a copy of Imposing Sovereign. Great turn to have that.
Yep.
So Martin's going to take a draw. It's a copy of Ultimate Price. Not a bad one to have.
Although, again, trading 1 for 1 against John's deck is sort of an uphill battle. Eventually, Russell needs to find either a sweeper effect, a Chandra, or something large.
It's a Skylasher in the grip there right now, but he's just going to play a copy of Sylvan Carriage and pass the turn back. So at the ready to take a bunch of damage. See Godless Shrine in Bagley's hand right now. No haste creatures. Does have 4 copies of Mutavaults, but none so far this game. So he's just going to attack for 3, put Martin down to 14.
It's possible John's deck is the best Mutavault deck I've ever seen. In terms of you just not saying the best deck, but if you wanted to maximize Mutavault, this is how you do it.
Yeah, sure. Going to play Daring Skyjack, pass the turn back over to Martin. Martin has got his mana online. Now, of course, his creatures are going to come into play tap because of Imposing Sovereign. But as far as mana is concerned, he's got it.
But he is under the gun big time, and it looks like he's in 1 spell a turn land for the time being.
He's looking at a Corsair Crewfix. Not going to play a great role here. Could play something along the lines of Ultimate Price plus Scavenging Ooze, which isn't a bad turn, but if he's going to price, he wants to do it now, I think, because of Brave the Elements.
Yeah. It's a good spot to do it. Certainly, you do not want John untapping with this mana in any case.
And he knows now that John has access to a card like Profit Loss, draws a Plains for the turn.
I'd put that elf under arrest, I think.
Oh, nothing just yet. He'll start by casting Ultimate Price to take care of the Azorius. Take care of the Imposing Sovereign.
Oh,
now here's your
boy.
attacks.
This is
What is
Skylasher.
Oof, okay.
That is not eating the elite.
Wow, I'm a little surprised by that. Wants to maybe save his life total a little bit.
Okay, that's a respectable play too. I certainly don't. I'm not opposed.
And this is a Sovereign and a Daring Skyjack, so pretty good turn as he just passed the turn back over to Martin. Good way to redeploy the threats.
You can see Palikronos in hand, but it's such a risk to cast it.
Yeah, so slow. There's Ooze going to come into play tapped. If he can get that thing into a 4/4, it's going to be great.
Yeah, Scavenging Ooze is not bad here because, okay, he's going to add more mana. I was going to say that he had the option of leaving the Elvish Mystic back, which can block Imposing Sovereign.
There's a Mutavault. It's a pretty nice draw. Last card's Azorius Arrestor.
Ooh, nice. Put something under arrest.
Yeah. And he's going to arrest Scavenging Ooze.
This is really nice because if Russell wants to gain a life right now, he has to tap the Sylvan Caryatid.
Yep. And he says, I don't want to do that. I'm going to put that on blocking your Imposing Sovereign. So you're going to take 6. You're going to go down to 7. Pass the turn back. Temple of Abandon the draw here. Maybe this will allow Martin to actually cast Corsair now.
Well, Russell also has to concern himself with losing to Brave the Elements, especially since all of his creatures are green. So ideally, he would like to add something non-green to the board.
There's Corsair. There's Blood Crypt. Yeah, in a perfect world, he would like to add a non-green creature. I definitely agree with you there. He could add Domri this turn, too. Could play Blood Crypt untapped off the top of the deck. He would go down to 5 to play Domri, fight something. It's okay. It's not great.
I think you just need to hang back. Your Scavenging Ooze on defense can block a bunch of stuff profitably, and the Elvish Mystic can block either Arrestor or Imposing Sovereign. So you do have the ability to kind of batten down the hatches this turn.
Yeah, I guess the big question here is Blood Crypt's going to come into play. Tap Martin's going to go up to 8. Top card's another copy of Blood Crypt. Was he supposed to play Arrestor last turn, and so that he can attack with it this turn, or was he supposed to play it this turn so the Scavenging Ooze couldn't block?
I liked playing it the turn he played it.
Okay.
He needs to just deploy his stuff to make Brave the best card possible.
See if Plains coming to play here for Bagley. Might be priced into just activating Mutavault and getting in with everybody. Trying to pace things right now is not really going to work out the way that he wants them to. At least I don't think. And he's not going to attack with Sovereign. So you're going to get a battalion trigger here from Daring Skyjack and from Boros Elite.
If you were not going to attack with Imposing Sovereign, I'm not sure if I like sending in Azorius Arrestor. Because you can still get the battalion triggers, a hit with the Daring Skyjack.
Again, you could conceivably have your opponent down to 3 here.
And just trading 2 creatures here in the face of this Scavenging Ooze is just really rough.
Yeah, and this is why Scavenging Ooze is such a powerful creature, because now it can really take over in spots like this. You know, it's only a 2-mana spell that's a 2/2, but then it turns into a 4/4 or a 6/6, and then things really do spiral out of control. And that's what looks like is going to happen this game, because now that that's here, and Course is starting to gain life, and now Golgari Charm has been turned over, and now things are really looking dire here for Bagley.
Yeah, Russell shut the door on this one, I feel like. Things were harrowing there for a little while, but he played conservatively enough as appropriate, got the board gummed down, and he's just pound for pound so much more powerful when we get to this stage of the game.
Yeah, it's really on Bagley just to get the game over as fast as he could, and unfortunately this game, and I'm not saying that this is what this deck has to do every time, but it might have to have a start where it plays a 1-drop on turn 1 and then 2 1-drops on turn 2 to be able to have its best chance to win the game.
Well, he's barely touching black, so he can't even really access cards like Doomblade.
Yeah.
You know? He doesn't want to play Temple of Silence because, of course, he's just trying to flood the board with a bunch of 1-mana creatures, but it really limits the options that he can have, and once we get to this stage of the game, not only is he behind, but it's hopeless. There's nothing he can draw to get back out of this.
Bagley just going to take a pretty conservative approach now, too, where he could have probably attacked last turn, but he's just going to play super, super safe because, again, he doesn't know exactly what could be had over there from the White Weenie deck, so no reason to do anything crazy. I've got a Scavenging Ooze that can give me a bunch of life. I can play conservatively. There's almost nothing my opponent can draw. I don't want to walk into any traps here. Golgari Charm the draw, of course. Top card is a Forest. And now Courser gets to take over too.
And this is, I think, a pretty good demonstration of the challenge of Bagley's deck. I feel like his game ones against most opponents are probably excellent.
I agree.
And I think the post-board games, his opponent is picking up cards, and in some cases, incredibly high impact cards, and he just really isn't. He has 3 Fiendslayer Paladins that are really good against burn strategies, and otherwise, I think most matchups he's playing are going to get worse in the post-board games.
I think the big issue for John, too, is that if his opponents actually draw their sideboard cards, because their sideboard cards are definitely going to be good against your strategy, it's very hard to win.
Yeah.
It only takes 1 sideboard card, too, from what we have seen, for the opponent to pick up to really be able to win the game.
Yeah.
You know, it doesn't take a combination of 2 or 3 like it might in an Esper matchup versus blue-white or what have you. It only takes 1. You know, 1 Golgari Charm is really going to get the job done. 1 Drawn Sorrow, 1 Anger of the Gods. That's going to be very hard to beat.
Yeah, there's no resilience. There's no Spear of Heliod or Hammer Perforos to give you some play against those kind of sweepers. So it's just, here are my 34 creatures.
And as you mentioned, too, his sideboard doesn't really afford him much help. He's got Glare of Heresy, his Last Breath, Fiendslayers, a couple of copies of Renounce the Guild and King Apparition, along with Needle. But none of those cards are going to do, and those cards are fine, but they're not high-impact cards that if I draw them, I definitely win the game.
Yeah, Last Breath is likely just a concession to Pack Rat, which is incredibly good against this kind of strategy.
And I feel Spectre, too.
Yeah. But it's not like you're thrilled about bringing in Last Breath in your super fast beatdown deck, you know?
Yeah. Letting your opponent gain 4 life? I don't think so. Not the best. See Martin really starting to chain off here. There's another high-impact sideboard card for him in Chandra Pyromaster. Between Domri, Scavenging Ooze, and Courser going crazy, this is some of the allure of the Jund Monsters or just Green-Red Monsters deck. Green cards typically don't do things like what these green cards do.
Yeah, and if your opponent's looking to brawl with you on the ground, forget about it.
Yeah.
This deck does it better than anyone else.
You know, that was some of the draw to Jund Monsters for me. It was just that, you know, these aren't your typical green cards like Emperor Crocodile or, you know, just
the croc.
Yeah, just big dumb idiots that just, you know, attack you. You know, these are green cards that can do a lot of different things. Pulakranos can kill creatures. Courser's drawing me cards and filtering my draws. Scavenging Ooze is awesome early and late. I need some life gain, and, you know, I don't have a card like Loxodon and Hierarch or Ravenous Baloth to get the job done anymore. So this card actually arguably is better than both of those.
I would say by a lot.
Yeah. Green card's a little bit different nowadays, and I don't even want to get into Domri because we've never seen a card like that. See, that's going to take care of things.
A powerful planeswalker that goes into something other than a control strategy.
It's a nice change.
Yeah, it's a nice change of pace.
Because I wouldn't call Johnny Goldman a powerful planeswalker. I would call that one a necessary one.
Yeah.
It was fine.
Call of the Pride's pretty good too.
Yeah, it's fine.
It's a very, for aggressive strategy, again, totally powerful.
Are we in a good place if Caller of the Pride's a really good card in the metagame?
Yeah. Yes.
Yes, we are? Okay.
Yeah.
Because, that card's, a little bit dangerous because it starts with such high loyalty. Is it a good place to be? And if that card is just I drew a Johnny, I can't win.
The thing is, even if it's hard for you to interact with a Johnny, you can interact with the stuff they're augmenting with a Johnny. So it's hard for the card to be too powerful in that sense.
Sure.
Because you can either kill the Planeswalker or the stuff it's interacting with, as opposed to Jace, where if you can't kill Jace, the other stuff it's doing is drawing cards, and
Sure.
you can't interact with that.
You see Russell Martin is going to win the game. John Bagley extends the hand, and his White Winnie deck picks up its first loss on the weekend. Russell Martin, with a sigh of relief, is 5-0 here in Milwaukee with John Monsters.
Oh, well, you're sweating bullets in that matchup, I'll tell you what, because Brave the Elements is always something you're worried about, and the first game he just got run over, and his draw was very solid the first game. He went first, he had a Mana Accelerant, Domri, Stormbreath Dragons. It wasn't like he was missing the tools that he has game one, but